Good afternoon. My name is Robert Sponsler. I'm an architect and design principal working with the Snell development team on the design for the redevelopment of the Ames site and the AmesCenter in Rosslyn. We last presented to you in February of this year at our first SPRC meeting. And on behalf of the entire development team, we are very excited to be presenting our updates to you this afternoon. The presentation consists of 6 distinct parts. The first 2 parts are architecturally related, and I'll be presenting those to you. The first part reflects answers to questions that we received at that first SPRC and some minor updates to our program, including a reduction in the number of parking spaces. The second part consists of our proposal for the design of the church, working with the Arlington Temple United Methodist Church, which we've been doing over the last few months. And then we'll have a presentation from our landscape architect about the 18th Street corridor implementation in the public areas of the project that are the centerpiece of our design, followed by 3 subsequent presentations. Our traffic engineer will discuss transportation issues, our general contractor will present construction logistics issues, and our land use council will present site improvements and community benefits. So to begin with the first section, we've updated our program as shown on this slide. We've reduced our overall density about 5% from 10.5 to 10.0 FAR. Subsequently and accordingly, our number of units has been reduced a similar percentage from 788 units to approximately 740 units. The South Tower, we are still proposing to put an interim hotel use for 2 to 5 years in the lower levels of the South Tower. That's about 200 units worth of hotel interim use, which we think will serve to activate the public space and adds to the project overall. And at the ground level, our retail uses and commercial uses haven't really changed since February at all. There's 8,000 square feet of retail along Fort Myer in 3 distinct locations, and there's 11,000 square feet of commercial use between the 2 towers on the lower levels of the south and the north towers as well. Rounding out the program, on the north side of the site, we have the church use with its ground level tenant, currently a service station that comprises about 24,000 square feet of use. There's been a notable change in the number of parking spaces. We've reduced the parking from 650 spaces in February to 574 spaces. Of those 574, approximately 535 are dedicated to residential units and visitors. The ratio is thus reduced to about 0.72 from the 0.81 ratio that we had in February, over a 10% reduction there. To illustrate that change, we are showing you a section that illustrates where that reduction has occurred. So we've removed the 5th level of parking that we had in our original proposal, reducing the height of our street volume to 4 levels above the retail. You can see that in section. The majority of our parking still occurs below grade. It spans between the 2 towers on 3.5 levels of below grade parking infrastructure. And in the public realm, to illustrate this change further, our design was about scaling the buildings to the streets. We did this a number of ways through our window pattern, but also our fundamental massing, shouldering the building at the lower levels. In this change of reduction of 1 parking level, we've lowered the elevation of our street volume on the South Tower approximately 10 feet to be about 70 feet above Fort Myer and 60 feet above Ames, reducing it 1 full floor from the previous proposal. Similarly, along the Nash frontage, you can see the entry porch to our North Tower on the left and our street volume on the South Tower on the right, with the 18th Street corridor in the center, and what that reduction means for the scale of the building at the street level along the Nash frontage, becoming about 60 feet above street level along Nash through the reduction of 1 above grade parking level. The next series of slides relate to a question that arose in our first SPRC. We were asked to clearly delineate our various entrances to the building, the retail, the residential, the hotel, and the commercial entrances, to show where those are elevationally, and also discuss our strategy for ventilation The provision of fresh air is a code required item for these buildings, and we like to integrate as much as possible those necessary mechanical requirements into our building facades very discreetly. As well, we will illustrate where all of our loading and service entrances are by facade, street by street on the next few pages. I'm starting with this overall perspective on Fort Myer, though, to discuss our strategy. So for retail use, we like to provide a continuous, flexible retail band about 16 inches tall that combines with the canopies that occur above the doors at the retail entrances. This discrete 16-inch element allows for fresh intake and exhaust as needed for the retailers and provides flexibility over time. We're highlighting all of these entrances, whether they be residential, commercial, or retail, as appropriate to acknowledge entry points in the building. And there's a number of them around the site that I'll show you. But the other thing we're doing, which is, I think, important, is we're using our entrances for loading and servicing functions to also double serve as air points for the garage. So we do our garage intake and air louvers on the sides and on the ceilings set back from the primary street facades in these openings as much as possible to eliminate any screens on the above and surrounding facades. So I'll begin with Fort Myer. So these first two elevations are on the top, the north building, Fort Myer elevation, and on the bottom, the south building, Fort Myer elevation. And we've provided a legend for the retail and the garage louvers and grills, for our building entrances, for other miscellaneous entrances of other uses, such as hotel and office, and for vehicular entrances. And those are clearly delineated on these elevations with this legend and with this key plan. So just to highlight a couple of those, you'll see the band for the retail that marches across all of these elevations, this 16-inch tall band for louvers, and all of our entrances for retail are called out with a canopy structure to highlight entry. And as I mentioned, the openings for the loading and service, the sides and the interior are utilized for louvers and grills for our garage ventilation systems, but they're off the primary facade. They're recessed between 5 and 10 feet from the primary facades when we need them. Now we switch over to the Nash Street elevation. On the top is the north building's porch. At the back of that porch in the corner is a louver and grill for the garage, but again, it's recessed from the primary facade. And the bottom elevation of the south tower along Nash illustrates our louver band for retail, our office entrance in the middle of that facade, and then our parking for the upper levels is at the southern edge of that facade. And one window pattern is being dedicated for garage ventilation and a small window additionally for loading ventilation. The sides and interiors of the main portal for the parking will also be utilized for garage ventilation below grade. And similarly, on the 18th Street corridor elevations, we have a north and a south elevation. There are no louvers or grills to speak of on the north building. That we do want to point out where the elevator lift is to negotiate the plaza change. There's a handicap access elevator in the middle of the site adjacent to the stair. And on the south elevation, there, in addition to our residential lobby and leasing entrances, there's a hotel canopy entrance designated with the 3s and one panel given to upper level garage ventilation. Another one of the issues that came up that we weren't able to address for time at the first SPRC was the shadow studies. And as you'd expect in an urban environment, we're utilizing the existing conditions for the fall of light across the site and the creation of shadow. Our buildings to the east are pretty tall neighbors, so as you'd expect, the light and the sunlight will fall on the public spaces more towards the late morning, early afternoon, and into the evening. At the top of this page is the summertime, 3 times of the day, 9, 12, and 3 p.m. And on the bottom are the spring and fall represented here with a 9, 12, and 3 p.m. Study. Again, noting how the plazas and the public areas receive more light in the middle of the day towards the evening. Another question that came up in the first SPRC was how the building would be viewed from neighboring buildings. So we took a vantage point from about the middle of the Turnberry building looking south, maybe the lower third of that building, and it illustrates how, because of our articulation of the facade with the wrinkled wave pattern and the implementation of balconies and outdoor spaces. There's a very soft texture expanded upon with the green spaces that we have on our lower terraces and our balconies as well to soften that vantage from the neighboring buildings. And they're not acute, they're skewed elevations, so there's not a direct, blunt adjacency across the street. And the last issue that we wanted to address was our approach to bird-friendly design. There's a number of aspects to this approach that we're implementing. First is the overall building form and the articulation of the exterior facades. One of the best things we can do to mitigate this issue and the impact on the bird population is to avoid flat, shiny surfaces. So this building being comprised of 40% glass and 60% non-shiny metal louver and architectural precast concrete already goes a long distance towards mitigating that reflective quality. Additionally, the wrinkling of the facade provides skewed views of the glass, so not direct flat aspects to that facade treatment. Another issue related to the glass is the specific selection of the glass for energy conformance. So instead of using reflective glass to meet our energy goals, we're using a high performance low E coating with a neutral tint to reduce the solar radiance incidence into the building and improve our energy modeling performance. So the design of the building, the shape of the building, and the selection of the materials are all important. The final issue we're using and considering is the lighting of the public spaces. So instead of providing lighting fixtures which provide uplight and glare, all of our lighting is focused downward to the plaza level and to the landscaping, and we're avoiding glare in the design of that lighting system. So taken together, these issues will help to mitigate and be very bird friendly in terms of our design approach.